Okay, so get this. We're diving into an alien invasion today, but not your typical, little green men coming down in spaceships.
Right.
This is something a little different. This is a deep dive requested by a listener who wants to explore the idea of a covert interdimensional infiltration,
Hmm.
disguised as something that we're seeing more and more these days,
Right.
which is drones and those unexplained lights in the sky.
Interesting.
So buckle up because we're about to go down a rabbit hole.
I'm ready.
Now, before we jump in, a couple of important things to remember. First, we're dealing with a thought experiment here,
I
not a news report or a scientific study. So while the source material presents a fascinating scenario, it's important to approach this with a healthy dose of skepticism and critical thinking.
agreed.
And second, we'll be drawing on a range of sources for this deep dive, some of which may present conflicting viewpoints. So
Yeah.
just a heads up, we're not here to endorse any particular perspective, just to explore the ideas and see where they take us.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's get to it. The listener's request boils down to this. What if those unexplained lights in the sky aren't just drones or weather balloons or some secret government project,
Right.
but something far stranger? Something that's been slowly infiltrating our world for who knows how long, interdimensional beings disguised as everyday technology.
Yeah. What I find so intriguing about this premise is that it really forces us to confront our own assumptions about reality.
Exactly.
It's easy to dismiss UFO sightings as hoaxes or misidentified objects.
Yeah.
Right? Like people see something weird and they jump to aliens.
Right.
But what if those lights in the sky are something far more profound? Something that challenges our understanding of the universe itself.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The source material lays out this scenario where these interdimensional beings are slowly infiltrating our world, almost like a virus, starting with small, seemingly innocuous encounters.
I see.
But the part that really gets me is this idea of widespread denial.
Yeah.
Why would we be so quick to dismiss something that could potentially be such a huge threat?
Well, denial is a powerful psychological defense mechanism. It's how we cope with information that is too overwhelming or terrifying to process.
Right.
I mean, think about it. If your first instinct upon seeing something strange in the sky was alien invasion,
Right.
you'd probably be living in a constant state of panic.
Yeah, I can see that.
It's much easier and, frankly, more comforting to rationalize it away as a drone,
Yeah.
a weather balloon, even a new SpaceX launch.
Right. We're creatures of habit. We cling to familiar explanations. But the source material suggests that this initial denial could actually work in the invaders' favor, giving them time to establish a foothold while we're all busy arguing about whether that viral video is real or CGI.
Exactly.
Right.
And the media would play a significant role in shaping public perception during this stage.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, imagine a constant barrage of blurry photos, shaky eyewitness accounts,
Right.
and all these experts debating the validity of each sighting. The
Yeah.
sheer volume of information, often contradictory, would create this sog of uncertainty, making it difficult for anyone to form a clear picture of what's really happening.
That's a brilliant point. It wouldn't be a blatant takeover. It would be this subtle manipulation of information,
Right.
exploiting our tendency to gravitate towards the simplest explanation, even if it's wrong.
Exactly.
But what about the scientific community? Wouldn't they be sounding the alarm?
Well, the scientific community, by its very nature, is grounded in skepticism and the pursuit of verifiable evidence.
Of course.
So imagine physicists and astronomers trying to analyze these strange lights through the lens of known laws of physics
All right.
without concrete proof of interdimensional origins. Their initial conclusions would likely be based on terrestrial explanations.
So even the experts would be struggling to make sense of it all, adding to the confusion and delaying any real recognition of the threat.
Right.
But while the public is debating and the scientists are researching, what are governments doing behind the scenes?
Well, the source material suggests that governments would be in a tricky position. On one hand, they'd be under immense pressure to provide answers
Right.
and to reassure the public. But on the other hand, they'd be grappling with the enormity of the situation themselves,
Yeah.
trying to gather intelligence and assess the true nature of the threat. They might even try to control the narrative, downplaying the significance of the events to avoid widespread panic.
Okay, so we've got this perfect storm brewing, public confusion, scientific uncertainty, and governments operating in secrecy. It seems like a recipe for mass hysteria and conspiracy theories.
It is.
And isn't that exactly what kicks off stage 2?
Precisely. As sightings become more frequent
Mm.
and the initial wave of denial starts to wane, Public anxiety would inevitably rise.
Yeah.
People would start connecting the dots, real or imagined.
Right.
And a lack of clear information from official sources would only fuel speculation and fear.
I can already see the internet exploding with theories about government cover-ups, alien alliances, maybe even some folks predicting the apocalypse. It's like that saying, never let a good crisis go to waste. Some groups would absolutely exploit the situation for their own gain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where the psychological impact of the invasion really starts to take hold. Uncertainty breeds fear.
Right.
And fear, unfortunately, can bring out the worst in people.
Yeah.
We become more susceptible to manipulation, more likely to form in-groups and out-groups based on shared anxieties, and quicker to embrace extreme ideologies that offer a sense of control in a world that feels increasingly chaotic.
It's like that classic War of the Worlds broadcast, but amplified by the speed and reach of social media. Instead of gathering around the radio, we'd be glued to our phones, constantly bombarded with images, videos, and opinions that would only exacerbate our anxiety.
Exactly. And imagine the government's attempts to control the narrative backfiring, further eroding public trust and feeding the conspiracy mill.
Ugh.
It's a vicious cycle that could quickly spiral out of control.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen how misinformation and distrust can tear societies apart. In the face of an interdimensional invasion, those divisions would only deepen.
So we're teetering on the edge of chaos. But the true nature of the threat is still shrouded in mystery. What's the tipping point? The event that finally shatters the facade and makes it impossible to ignore the reality of what's happening.
Well, the source material describes a series of unignorable events that force humanity to confront the truth. These aren't just random lights in the sky anymore. We're talking about targeted attacks on critical infrastructure, blackouts, communication disruptions, maybe even the disabling of military systems. Imagine a world where your phone suddenly stops working, the internet goes dark, and the news reports are filled with images of fighter jets falling from the sky, seemingly brought down by invisible forces.
Okay, now that's scary. At that point, even the most hardcore skeptics would have to admit that something truly extraordinary and potentially very dangerous is happening.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
It is.
And this is where the story takes a truly dark turn.
Yeah.
Leading us into stage 3, recognition of threat. But before we go there, I think it's important to pause and let this sink in. We've just laid the groundwork for a global crisis.
We have.
And it all started with a few flickering lights in the sky.
Unbelievable. It's a lot to process. We've gone from curious speculation to the brink of societal collapse in just a few short steps. And the scariest part is that this is just the beginning.
Right.
We'll be back after a short break to continue our deep dive into this unsettling scenario. Stay tuned. Okay, so last time we left off with the world kind of like teetering on the edge of chaos, right? The public is freaking out, governments are scrambling, and those unexplained lights are starting to look a lot more menacing.
Right.
But it's in stage 3, this recognition of the threat, where things really hit the fan.
Yeah, that's right. It's the moment the veil drops, and we can no longer deny the reality of the situation. The source material describes a cascade of events that shatter the facade of normalcy.
Oh, wow.
Like imagine leaks from whistleblowers revealing the truth about government cover-ups,
Right.
classified documents surfacing online, detailing the extent of the infiltration, perhaps even direct encounters with these interdimensional beings captured on video and broadcast across the globe.
Oh, man, I can see the headlines now. They're here. Governments lied. World leaders issue apocalyptic warnings. It would be absolute pandemonium. But what happens when those trusted institutions, the ones we rely on for information and protection, completely fail us?
That's the crux of stage 3. It's not just about recognizing the threat. It's about the erosion of trust and the breakdown of social order.
Right.
We'd see mass panic, runs on banks, hoarding of resources, perhaps even outbreaks of violence as people struggle to cope with the fear and uncertainty.
Yeah.
Think about how quickly things devolved during the early days of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And multiply that by 1,000.
It's a chilling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
A world where the rules we've always lived by no longer apply.
Right.
Where the institutions we've relied on for security crumble before our eyes. And remember that detail from the source material? The one that really sent chills down my spine?
Oh, yeah.
The leaked video of a drone targeting a nuclear power plant?
Right.
That's not just an attack.
Yeah.
It's a statement, a demonstration of power that would send shockwaves through the entire world.
That detail is particularly unsettling because it highlights the vulnerability of our systems, even those designed to protect us from the most dire threats.
Right.
Imagine the ripple effect of such an attack. Not just the immediate devastation, but the long-term consequences of radiation exposure.
Oh, gosh.
The economic fallout.
Right.
The psychological trauma inflicted on an already terrified population. It would be a turning point.
Yeah.
A stark reminder of the stakes involved and the potential consequences of inaction or ineffective resistance.
Okay, so the world is in chaos. The threat is undeniable. And we're staring down the barrel of a potential nuclear disaster. What happens next? Does humanity just lie down and accept its fate?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
The source material outlines a range of responses, reflecting the diversity of human nature.
Okay.
On a global scale, we'd likely see a massive military mobilization, with nations setting aside their differences, at least temporarily, to form a united front against this common enemy. Think back to the aftermath of 9/11. The sense of global unity and shared purpose that emerged in the face of a common threat.
Right.
This would be like that, but on an exponentially larger scale.
It makes sense. But there's a catch, right? We're dealing with an enemy that defies our understanding of physics.
Right.
A force that operates on principles that are completely alien to us. How do you fight something you don't even understand?
That's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would be like trying to fight a shadow. A force that can seemingly materialize and disappear at will, wielding weapons that we can barely comprehend. Conventional military tactics and weaponry might be completely useless against such an adversary.
The source material talks about a scientific scramble to understand the invaders.
Yes.
A global Manhattan project dedicated to unraveling the secrets of interdimensional physics and reverse engineering their technology.
Right.
It's a race against time, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Imagine scientists working around the clock, analyzing captured drones, studying energy signatures, desperately searching for a way to fight back, to level the playing field. But what if those efforts backfire?
Right. What if we unlock knowledge that's too dangerous for us to handle?
It's a sobering thought, and it raises some profound... It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can find ways to resist, to adapt, to fight for survival.
Exactly.
But what about the flip side? What about those who might view the invaders as saviors? As beings who offer a new path, a new order?
That's another fascinating possibility explored in the source material. Imagine disillusioned individuals and groups.
Right.
Those who have lost faith in traditional institutions, turning to the invaders for answers.
Oh, wow.
For protection, even for a sense of belonging. It's a scenario ripe with both potential and peril.
Right.
Would these collaborators be welcomed into the invaders' fold?
Yeah.
Or would they ultimately become pawns in a larger game? Their trust exploited for the invaders' own ends.
Wow, so we've got this incredibly complex web of potential responses. Governments scrambling for solutions, scientists racing against time, civilians fighting back, and some even turning to the invaders for salvation. It's like the entire spectrum of human behavior is on display, amplified by the existential threat we're facing. But let's get down to brass tacks. What are the chances we actually win this fight?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to the heart of Stage 4 response and resistance.
Okay.
But before we dive into the potential outcomes, let's take a moment to consider the sheer scale of what we're facing.
Right.
We're not talking about a conventional war, a conflict fought on familiar battlefields. This is a struggle for survival against a force that operates outside the boundaries of our understanding, a force capable of rewriting the rules of reality itself.
All right. Deep breath. We've established the threat, the potential responses, and the terrifying reality that this is unlike anything humanity has ever faced. So what happens next? What are the possible outcomes of this interdimensional showdown?
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the initial denial and that creeping anxiety to the global panic of recognizing the threat, and then the chaotic scramble for solutions. But now we're entering the territory that truly fascinates me, the long game, the aftermath.
Yeah.
Even if humanity manages to survive this interdimensional invasion, the world will never be the same.
You're absolutely right. Stage 5, open conflict or subjugation, and even Stage 6, philosophical and existential reckoning, aren't just about physical battles or technological advancements. They're about the reshaping of human consciousness, the forging of new realities.
Right.
The source material you sent doesn't shy away from the potential for devastation.
Oh, no.
I mean, entire cities could be leveled, populations decimated. The very environment we depend on could be irrevocably altered. Yeah, it's a bleak picture, no doubt. But amidst the potential for destruction, the source material also hints at something else. A kind of evolutionary pressure cooker. Humanity forced to adapt or perish.
Exactly. We've already talked about the scientific scramble to understand and counter the invaders' technology.
Right.
But imagine the breakthroughs that might emerge from that desperate struggle. Yeah. Fusion power, advanced materials, maybe even manipulation of gravity itself.
Wow.
These are just a few possibilities outlined in the source material.
It's mind-boggling to think about. Yeah. But wouldn't such advancements come with their own set of ethical dilemmas? What if we create weapons even more destructive than those the invaders possess? Or unlock technologies that have unforeseen consequences, potentially threatening our very existence?
That's the paradox of progress, isn't it? The same knowledge that could save us could also destroy us.
Yeah.
It's a theme that has echoed throughout human history. Think about the development of nuclear weapons. We unleashed a power that could obliterate entire civilizations.
Yeah.
And yet that same power also holds the potential for clean energy and medical breakthroughs.
Right.
The key, as always, lies in how we choose to wield that knowledge. And that brings us to the truly transformative aspect of this scenario, the philosophical and existential reckoning.
Okay, let's dive into that. The source material suggests that the very foundations of our belief systems would be shaken. Religion, science, our understanding of our place in the universe. Everything would be up for grabs.
Imagine the impact on organized religion.
Yeah.
Some might see the invaders as proof of divine intervention,
right?
Perhaps even as agents of judgment or salvation. Others might reject them as demonic entities,
right?
A challenge to the very order of creation. And still others might seek to incorporate them into existing theological frameworks, reinterpreting ancient scriptures through the lens of this new reality.
It's fascinating to consider how faith might evolve in response to such an event. Would we see a resurgence of traditional beliefs? Or would entirely new religions emerge, shaped by the encounter with these interdimensional beings?
It's impossible to say for sure.
Huh.
But the source material suggests that the encounter would trigger a profound spiritual crisis,
right,
forcing humanity to confront fundamental questions about the nature of existence, the meaning of life, and our place in the grand scheme of things.
What about science? Would our understanding of the universe be completely overturned?
The implications for science are equally profound. Imagine physicists grappling with the reality of interdimensional travel,
right,
astronomers rethinking their models of the cosmos, and biologists studying the invaders' biology for clues to unlock new forms of medicine or genetic engineering.
Right.
The very laws of physics, as we currently understand them, might need to be rewritten. It would be a period of unprecedented scientific upheaval.
Yeah.
A paradigm shift that would ripple through every field of knowledge.
It's both exhilarating and terrifying to think about. But it's not just about grand theories and scientific breakthroughs, is it? It's about how these events would shape our art, our music, our literature, our entire culture.
Right. Imagine the stories we would tell, the paintings we would create, the music we would compose.
Right.
The invasion would become a touchstone for human expression, a source of both inspiration and trauma, a lens through which we would view our past, present, and future.
Right.
Would we see a resurgence of dystopian narratives, tales of resilience and resistance, or perhaps even new forms of art that attempt to capture the interdimensional nature of the invaders, blending science and spirituality in ways we can't yet imagine?
It's mind-blowing to consider the creative outpouring, the evolution of human consciousness that could emerge from such an event.
Right.
But amidst all this potential for change, for both devastation and advancement, there's one question that lingers in my mind. What about us? How would we as individuals be changed by this experience?
That's perhaps the most profound question of all. The source material doesn't offer easy answers, but it suggests that the experience would leave an indelible mark on the human psyche. We've already talked about the potential for widespread PTSD anxiety and a heightened sense of vulnerability.
Yeah.
But there's also the possibility for growth, for resilience, for a newfound appreciation for the preciousness of life and the interconnectedness of all things.
So even amidst the darkness and uncertainty, there's a glimmer of hope.
Yes.
A potential for transformation and awakening on a personal and collective level.
Exactly. The encounter with these interdimensional beings, regardless of the outcome, would force us to confront our own limitations.
Right.
To reevaluate our place in the universe, and to grapple with the profound questions that have haunted humanity since the dawn of consciousness. It would be a trial by fire, a crucible from which we might emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected to the vast tapestry of existence.
Well, this deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've explored the potential stages of an interdimensional invasion.
From those first flickering lights in the sky, to the profound philosophical and societal shifts that could reshape humanity. It's been a roller coaster ride of fear and hope, of destruction and potential. A reminder that the universe is far more vast and mysterious than we can possibly comprehend.
And as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you with one final thought. The source material you sent is just one possible scenario.
Right.
One interpretation of a phenomenon that continues to baffle and intrigue us. The reality, if it ever were to unfold, could be far stranger and more wondrous than anything we can imagine. So keep looking up at the sky, keep asking questions, and keep your mind open to the infinite possibilities that lie beyond the horizon of our current understanding.
Beautifully said. And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unknown. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop wondering about the mysteries of the universe.